So quietly, in the last decade, the public's been told that we're giving up all of our liberties and setting up a domestic, internal, secret police force under Homeland Security because of Al-Qaeda. Despite the fact that Al-Qaeda was set up by the U.S. government in 1979 and has been protected and financed, doesn't matter if the underwear bomber on Christmas Day 2 years ago was gotten on the plane by the U.S. government, and the Deputy Secretary of State had to admit that. Doesn't matter if Anwar al-Awlaki, number 3 in Al-Qaeda, Fox News even admits dines secretly at the Pentagon. No, that's the public sales job for all these wars. It's just an extension of lying about WMDs and Saddam was going to nuke England in 45 minutes and Colin Powell holding up the anthrax that turned out to be a government operation. All the evidence showed. No, quietly they've been training the police, the military, that it's conservatives, it's libertarians, it's constitutionalists, it's people that don't like the giant, out-of-control private Federal Reserve banking system dominating the country. But now in the last year, I've seen the political establishment advising Obama that if you don't have a new Oklahoma City or 9/11 to blame the Tea Party, your political career is over. And there's new reports out where they're basically calling for a stage crisis, a war. Obama's saying he's not worried about Al-Qaeda. He's worried about lone wolf domestic groups. And remember, about a month ago, Homeland Security put out all these new PSAs where almost everyone in it is a white person. And if you've got a cell phone, if you're wearing a hoodie, you're a terrorist. It's rebranding that the Tea Party is going to get you. And then you see the vice president 2 weeks ago come out and say the Tea Party are terrorists and that they may blow something up. So you see the major rollout, the major frame-up being prepared, but the establishment isn't stopping there. They are ignoring Ron Paul, demonizing him when they do covering him, saying he can't win when he is clearly the front runner. When he isn't a flip-flopper, when he understands the inflation tax, he understands we're dominated by international private banks that launder most of the drug money on record. Bloomberg, Wachovia, Wells Fargo, $376 billion laundered in drug money in 2 years. Nobody got in trouble. Ron Paul understands this. So it's not enough to demonize people that criticize the Federal Reserve and criticize the private banking cartel. They are also going to hit it from another angle by co-opting it. Attack it, but also co-opt it. When Ron Paul comes out and calls the private Federal Reserve treacherous and treasonous, it gets ignored. When Rick Perry, Al Gore's former chief of staff in Texas, Mr. Carbon Tax, Mr. Gun Control, when Mr. NAFTA Superhighway, Mr. Forced Gardasil Inoculation, when he comes out and talks about it, the media gives it total and complete attention. And here's our article on it. Perry apes Ron Paul in attack on Fed cartel. Here's another one, AP. White House denounces, that's Reuters actually, White House denounces Perry as Republicans target Fed. I mean, before, 5 years ago, if you talk bad about the Federal Reserve, every mainline politician, both parties, would absolutely excoriate you as a conspiracy theorist. Remember that? If you even said the Fed was private, they would laugh at you. They would say, oh, next Martians are going to get me. Remember that? Then they stopped denying it was private and defended it. Now they're saying, yeah, they're almost treasonous. They're treacherous. And the president comes out and says, how dare you, Perry, say we shouldn't print more money? Well, it is a treacherous act to kill the dollar. It is a treacherous act by the banking cartel. But they're ending the dollar. They're moving on to the global SDR, based out of Europe, that the EU is now openly calling for as the solution to the same banking cartel imploding their countries. Some people email me and say, why are you bashing Europe, saying it's taking over America? No. The same money laundering, drug dealing mega banks on record are the ones imploding Europe and imploding our country as well. We're all in this together. The same mega banks that have bankrupted Nigeria and Argentina. It's the same stratagem of economic hitmen. So continuing, White House denounces Perry as Republicans target Fed. The White House denounced Republican presidential candidate Rick Perry today for his threatening remarks towards the head of the U.S. Federal Reserve and represented some of the most inflammatory rhetoric in the 2012 election campaign. And they go on to say that it's absolutely terrible that they're doing it. Printing more money to play politics at this particular time in American history is almost treacherous, treasonous in my opinion, Perry said. But see, they're so desperate that Ron Paul's catching on, they're going to allow their minions, Perry and Palin, Bachmann has now also come out with anti-Fed rhetoric. So is Newt Gingrich, the admitted globalist. You got Herman Cain up there, he used to work for the Federal Reserve. He's even starting to come out because they have to. Here it is. Bachmann also takes aim at Fed. Reuters. Rick Perry versus Ben Bernanke. All right, Alex Jones here, back live on this Wednesday, the 17th day of August, 2011. And the private banking cartel that controls the European Union and is also dominating the United States is openly announcing a complete private receivership takeover of Europe. The very same institutions that our Federal Reserve represents are doing the same thing here in the United States. We're going to be breaking that down. I would love to get your take as listeners on all the news we've been covering in the last 33 minutes. The toll-free number to join us today is 800-259-9231, 800-259-9231. Also yesterday, we covered the L.A. Times headline dealing with the ATF supervisors that went ahead with the Fast and Furious program to ship guns into Mexico to destabilize Mexico, demonize the Second Amendment here domestically, and fund the Sinaloa cartel to help knock out their competition. That's also admitted in the El Paso Times in another report that came out yesterday. This is such incredible information, and it's just hidden in plain view. And now the Justice Department has promoted the ATF supervisors that carried out this operation and is busy demoting and threatening the agents that blew the whistle on this corruption. So just unbelievable information now coming out in the open, showing how government will stage crises as a pretext to consolidate control over society. Now, continuing, we have several video clips I want to play here. The first one is a new PSA that has been put out by Homeland Security. Now, remember, a month ago, it got national attention when the Drudge Report and others, a link to our Infowars.com report, showing the training manuals and the videos where they're rebranding the terror threat from Al-Qaeda, Al-Qaeda, over to anyone that doesn't like the Federal Reserve, anyone that doesn't like the global government, anyone that is criticizing the establishment. But this message has become so mainstream that Ron Paul is winning in all the major polls that now they're trying to co-opt the movement from another angle with Rick Perry and, of course, Michelle Bachmann coming out and saying, yes, the Federal Reserve is treacherous, almost treasonous. So they're hitting it from both angles. But here's the newest report put out by Paul Joseph Watson today. It just went live at Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com. Big Sis, latest terrorist, more white Americans. New DHS video ignores previous controversy over deliberate racial overtones, where all the terrorists in the video are white and everybody reporting them as a, quote, minority. Again, they've already sold whites, using a little tinge of racism, that, hey, we're only taking the brown people's rights. Well, now they're telling the brown folks, hey, now we're going to take the white people's rights. Well, they're actually taking everyone's liberties and everyone's freedoms, just like Hitler first put draconian laws into place, but only enforced them against unpopular minorities, later expanded to everyone in the Reich. Despite causing controversy last month with a video that portrayed white middle-class Americans as the most likely terrorist, the Department of Homeland Security has released yet another PSA that depicts an attempt to bomb a subway station, not on al-Qaeda Muslims, but well-dressed white people. Again, what do the internal manuals say? Is it a priest? Don't trust him just because he's a priest. Or a woman with a baby carriage, maybe a terrorist. Are they wearing blue jeans? Do they have a cell phone? It's so wide, it's meant to make everybody not trust each other. It hypes up a threat. You got a better chance of being killed by a honeybee sting than by a terrorist. and it sells this total surveillance takeover of society and the federalization of police. A new public service announcement entitled The Drop-Off, If You See Something, Say Something, was unveiled by none other than Big Sis herself, Janet Napolitano, on the Homeland Security website today. America and the rest of the world is going into a depression. I went to the mall last week with my children, Barton Creek Mall. I only go a few times a year, and it had totally transformed. Police everywhere. When you buy something, you're interrogated. Your ID is taken and gone over. You're asked questions. You know, is this your ID? Is this your credit card? When you're buying, $50 of Legos, and you're looking at them going, yes. The same thing in every store I went in. All these weird security guards everywhere with these giant cartoon-sized police hats, bugging their eyes out at everybody. The truth is we're going into a depression, and they're using the terror threat as a pretext to get this police state grid rolled out. Continuing here with the information. The PSA, which will be played on television and radio stations, shows a well-dressed, attractive white woman exiting a taxi before walking to a subway station. The taxi driver, a white man, then takes a cell phone call and sets a timer on the device in the trunk of a car. The woman then leaves her bag in the station. If you see something, say something. Report suspicious activity to local authorities, states the voiceover as the clip ends with commuters reporting the incident to a black security guard and a black police officer. It's the same. There's scores of these PSAs, and they're all the same. Whites are the terrorists, blacks, Hispanics, Muslims, they're the good guys. The white people are everywhere. They're a savage force coming to kill you. Now, in previous videos, it would show some brown people, some white people as terrorists, and then whites and blacks reporting them. Now it's white people are terrorists. They're going to get you. And again, what does the vice president say? The Tea Party, who they say is predominantly white. They're the terrorist. Well, who's the president worried about with Wolf Blitzer yesterday? The white people. The evil terrorists. They're going to get you. The evil Tea Party. And again, they've already branded the Tea Party as white. It's not completely white, but they're trying to make it racial. If you're against the Obama health care, you're a racist. They're injecting the race over and over and over again. And it's absolutely textbook division, divide and conquer. In her accompanying statement on the video, DHS Chief Napolitano also hints that gun stores could be a prime breeding ground for terrorists, which, again, they now are restricting the Second Amendment outside of law. Can't pass the law. The ATF, who's shipping the guns to Mexico, comes into 4 western states on the border, southwestern states, and says, we've got to start restricting how many guns you can buy, even if we don't have a law. So she's connecting it to guns. So now terrorism isn't just evil Tea Party people, it's guns. Guns are connected to terror. DHS Chief Napolitano also hints that gun stores could be a prime breeding ground for terrorists, making reference to a recent case where the gun owner of a store in Fort Hood called authorities when an individual in the store was behaving in a suspicious manner. Turns out that whole thing stinks to high heaven and looks like it's staged. As we highlighted last month, a longer PSA recently produced by DHS overwhelmingly went to significant lengths to portray white Americans, including showing white people's eyes glowing blue, as the most likely terrorist, despite the fact that 126 people who were indicted on terrorist-related charges in the United States over the last 2 years were all Muslim. Bizarrely, the majority of the people shown reporting suspicious activity to authorities were portrayed as non-whites. And the article goes on to break all of this down. It was one of the biggest stories in the country a month ago when we put the report out. I don't normally ask Drudge to link to our reports, but if Drudge is listening or if the other crew over there, Mr. Curl, is listening, it'd be great if they got this out. But regardless, ladies and gentlemen, get this report, send it to everyone you know. Because a year ago I said they're rebranding terror from Al-Qaeda over to anybody that opposes the banking takeover. And predominantly, that's the Tea Party. And now it's mainstream to understand we're dominated by offshore banking cartel headed up by Goldman Sachs, J.P. Morgan, Bank of America, Wells Fargo. And again, those are all multinational operations, Citigroup, Bank of England. They're all private, and the Federal Reserve is their holding company. It is now absolutely essential to understand that Robert Shapiro put out memos to the White House saying, barring, in fact, pull up the Financial Times of London for me. The headline's like, how does Obama stay relevant? But if you just type in, you can find our article that links to it. If you type in, Clinton advisor says Obama needs terror. And then I want to actually read the exact quote to people instead of just paraphrasing it. But